Japanese horror is something that I'll never get tired of, though you could argue that it's overdone in video games. There's just so many out there that make use of the same aesthetics, on top of being a first-person walking simulator. But Labyrinth of the Demon King instantly got my attention when I tried the demo. It had an eerie atmosphere and a visual style that made it very easy to distinguish from other indie horror games on Steam. I ended up getting the game during the summer sale, and I literally could not stop thinking about it, even when I was outside touching grass. Labyrinth of the Demon King takes place in a world that's filled with war, disease, and demons. You play as a nameless foot soldier whose lord was deceived by a powerful demon, leading to his death along with the rest of his army. As the sole survivor, you track down the demon and find a rumored entrance into its stronghold. From there, you discover that the Demon King's fortress is a huge labyrinth filled with puzzles and bizarre creatures, so you'll have to find your way through it and survive all of its horrors. The first thing that stood out to me after the intro was just how incredible the ambience was. You only spend a brief amount of time in the forest, but it felt very Silent Hill, with a heavy fog and the ominous music. Going through it made me think that the main character should have never gone there in the first place, and that thought grew stronger the longer I played the game. The atmosphere was so thick that it made me paranoid throughout my playthrough, and I'm saying this as a person who loves horror games in general. It didn't help that there were many narrow corridors as well. The distorted music and creepy FMVs coupled with noises coming from grotesque monsters roaming the labyrinth freaked me out, even hours into my playthrough. It just shows how great the game is at keeping this heavy ambience going. It reminds you that you're not playing as a hero who can mow down enemies. You're just a normal soldier wandering into the unknown, facing nightmarish creatures. But I'd say that the biggest reminder is the fact that I kept dying in the game. Yeah, the first 2 hours of Demon King was quite the learning curve. Going through the game's confusing maze-like towers was bad enough, but I had to survive fights with random enemies chasing after me. And oddly enough, my biggest enemy was the stamina meter, which thankfully doesn't deplete when running. The combat in Labyrinth of the Demon King is actually deeper than it looks. It just requires patience. Both you and various enemies can block, kick, and parry each other's attacks. The difference is, they're much stronger than you, and unlike them, you have to manage your stamina meter. Every swing of your weapon depletes it, so if you carelessly attack whatever's in front of you, that meter will be completely empty, and you'll end up dying in a couple of seconds. This made every fight risky, even in the later parts of the game. Sometimes my deaths weren't just from getting hit a lot, but from receiving debuffs like getting poisoned and from bleeding out. So yeah, it was both frustrating and challenging just trying to learn how it all worked. But eventually it clicked for me. I realized that the game has a mix of survival horror and Dark Souls-like mechanics. I saved healing items and other resources by going back and forth to the game's save points, which functioned like bonfires that made enemies respawn. And I didn't need to fight every single monster. I could just run away, though that didn't take me too far when I got cornered or sandwiched by multiple enemies. But still, I got super invested in the game once I figured out how not to die so much. It helped that you could upgrade your stamina and health later on. Every time you find a ritual incense, you can choose to upgrade either of them. I personally upgraded stamina the most, and it made a huge difference. I had more chances to attack enemies before I had to pull back and wait for my stamina to recharge. The weapons made a difference as well. You'll be able to find different ones to suit your playstyle. There are katanas, hammers, spears, a bow, and even a gun, though each one has their pros and cons. Some weapons, like a hammer, may be much stronger than a sword, but swinging it is slower and it uses up more stamina. Meanwhile, long-ranged weapons are powerful, but finding more ammo can be tricky. You can buy more from the merchant, but they're expensive. Shirikodama, the game's currency, is not easy to find in general, so I personally saved my ammo for tougher enemies such as bosses. I actually figured out early on that I could just circle around enemies and whack them until they died. Most of the time, at least. I was terrible at parrying, so this was my optimal strategy. Oh, and it worked surprisingly well in boss fights. They weren't very challenging, so I could just circle around them and hit them until they died while consuming health and stamina items. It was kinda disappointing how easy it was to cheese them. They had cool designs and haunting cutscenes, so I was hoping that they would be more challenging. As for the exploration, going into different rooms and corridors makes up a big chunk of the gameplay. The Demon King stronghold is split into 4 towers, so you have to go through one tower and defeat the boss at the end of it in order to proceed to the next one. Progressing through them requires puzzle solving, which I noticed were heavily inspired by Resident Evil and Silent Hill. So you'll have moments where you have to go to different floors, searching for gems that would fit into the slots of a locked door. And progressing through certain parts of the game will give you access to previously locked places in the map. It felt a bit overwhelming from time to time, especially since I have a horrible sense of direction. I got lost every now and then, and it was so much worse when I just didn't know what to do next. The notes found throughout the game contained lore, as well as hints on certain items and enemies, but I ended up referring to a guide online when I was completely confused. The game's map actually reminded me of a pet peeve that I have with older horror games. The whole room that you're in is highlighted in the map, but it doesn't show you specifically where you're standing and facing, so it made it more annoying to find my way through the labyrinth. This was sort of fixed in an update, by the way. You can buy a compass from the merchant NPC, so you can just refer to that as you play the game. Now, as much as I like Labyrinth of the Demon King, I was disappointed by how short it was. The first tower was my favorite one because of how detailed it was. It had multiple floors and many secrets hidden around it, so it made me wonder what the next 3 towers were going to be like. But they ended up becoming shorter and shorter. The only reason why the next towers dragged on was because of all the backtracking. It wasn't rewarding or anything. It just felt like an artificial way to lengthen the playtime. Sure, there were some cool moments, and I ended up meeting NPCs that I really liked, but the whole experience was just too short for them to have more depth. I wanted more closure as well. The game just kinda ends without any more interactions with them. The most recent update as of this video's release adds options and improvements. Apart from the compass, it adds things like widescreen support, an item storage box, and improved stamina regeneration. But I'm not sure if the story or towers will be updated in any way. I'm kinda hoping they will be because I think the game would benefit from it a lot. It took me about 10 hours to beat the game, with most of it spent on getting lost. But yeah, there's just so much to love about this game. The graphics, ambience, and gameplay. It's just not as polished as I thought it would be. I recommend the game only if you manage your expectations and get it on a sale. It's a fun and challenging dungeon crawler that kept me hooked despite its flaws. But yeah, the game's out on Steam, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and the Nintendo Switch. Let me know what you thought about the video, and like and subscribe if you like my content. And thank you to my patrons at Patreon for supporting my channel. Hello everyone, I'm back. I've been streaming and making shorts for over a week now, I think. But yeah, I am back to making my regular videos after moving to the UK. I hope you guys are doing well. I actually played Labyrinth of the Demon King months ago when I was on hiatus, so I had to insert my experience playing that at the time, while briefly, talking about the new update that came after I finished the game. I bet the whole experience is just easier now. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.